Yo people, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your boy Demi, and today we're back with a story time. Today we're going to be talking about the savage life, my time in university, and my brief period of being a quote-unquote savage. Now, for those of you who know me, it's unthinkable. I'm an angelic person on a day-to-day basis. It couldn't be possibly conceivable that an angelic guy like me could do such a thing as live a savage life. But it's true. There was a time where that was me. But before we go into that, like, share and subscribe. There's going to be a lot more good content coming out on this YouTube channel. But yeah, let's give some background context. So to begin with, when I got to university, I was in a relationship, and it came to an end because I felt that it was a number of reasons. One, I felt that God was convicting me about the relationship being like sinful. I felt that there was bigger things that God had in store for me, and I just felt by ending the relationship I would be able to like progress in life in a way that I wasn't at the time. And it's really strange that I did end it, because looking back on it, I wasn't really a believer. I wasn't surrendered to God. I wasn't fully in Christ yet, although I did have a Christian upbringing and some Christian values and a praying mother. I wouldn't say that I was a genuine Christian. So why I ended the relationship is a bit of a mystery to me now. But I guess there was a kind of godliness that was working in me in that situation. But anyway, what I didn't realize at the time, but would soon follow afterwards, is that ending the relationship exposed a deep brokenness that was there prior to the relationship, but resurfaced after the relationship ended, but in a different way. I felt lonely. I felt depressed. I was even struggling with suicidal thoughts after the relationship ended. I didn't realize how much the relationship impacted me and how much the person meant to me until I ended things. And that just basically began a cycle of depression, suicidal thoughts. And it took me a long time to recover from this relationship. It was like 2 years, and I was still thinking, what's going on? Like, I'm still in university. I'm struggling to recover from actually this breakup. And it was affecting me like in a really bad way. So I'm in placement year. So for those of you who don't know what a placement year is, basically when you do a sandwich degree, you have a year of paid employment. So I'd gone on my placement year. I'm earning decent money. You know, I'm dressing good, working out, looking good. But there's still this deep-rooted pain inside of me that I can't resolve. Like I'm seeing this person in my dreams all the time. I'm going to work and I'm still struggling to move on. And I was so baffled. Like, it wasn't like I didn't date girls in that year, but it just was, I couldn't get past this breakup. And it really baffles me, but I couldn't get past it. I was just so broken, right? And what happened was, towards the end of that year, I decided that I would get this girl out of my system by just being a savage. Like, literally by just doing all kinds of madnesses. I decided that when I go back to university, I'm just gonna do all sorts of madness, and that will get her out of my system. I was like, yep, that's gonna fix it. I made a conscious decision in my mind to be a savage and to pursue the savage life. And I actually had a conversation with one of my friends recently, and he said something to me that always challenged me. He said, behind every savage is a guy with a broken heart. And I think there is some truth to that, at least in my situation. Like, what prompted me to like go down that path was this heartbreak that I couldn't move. Like, I lost a best friend. That was my first serious relationship. So it was difficult for me to move on from that. And I thought the only way I could remedy that was by being a savage. So I go back to university, and I've decided that I'm gonna live this life. But there's one major problem. I literally don't know how to be a savage. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to approach girls in a direct kind of way. I didn't really have the confidence to be a savage. So I kind of had to educate myself. And that kind of happened from one of my boys. So I remember I was in a barber shop with one of my boys, and I was basically like picking his brain. So it's like, how do you talk to girls like this way? How do you approach them? Where does your confidence come from? And my man was giving me the game. And then it clicked. Then I had a savage moment epiphany, and I understood everything I needed to do. And actually, there's one very major move that I use to get girls in university. I'm gonna show you the move at the end of this video. So, for those of you who are interested and curious about what was one of my key moves, like the creme de la creme of savagery, the creme de la creme of savage life. If you want to understand what was my major move that my boy showed me, then watch this video to the end. But anyway, my boy shows me the game. He shows me how to be a savage, and from there, I'm like, okay, this is how you do it. So I basically began to like approach girls, try, spit game, whatever. But initially it wasn't really working. Like, it was very clunky. I was still finding my feet. But then after a few tries, I became very proficient. I became quite proficient, and I had like a few different girls I was talking to once. Like, it became so bad, yeah, that I was actually like confusing girls for each other. And I was talking to so many different girls at once, like I actually wasn't keeping track of who was who. To the point where one girl pranked me and pretended that she was another girl. And I just thought that this girl was crazy. But what I didn't really actually realize at the time is that another girl was pretending to be her. It was weird, but basically I was just so involved with different girls at this many times. And generally, like, I'm the kind of person that I'm not very good with organization. So already talking to more than 3 girls at once was a wrap for me. I was struggling to like keep track of who was who, and I couldn't tell people's voices apart. But yeah, that year was mad. Like, in that year, I would say I was involved with maybe between 8 to 11 different girls, maybe a bit more than that, maybe a bit less. And you have to bear in mind, this isn't even a full calendar year. This is an academic year. So this is like 7 or 8 months. And I met all different kinds of girls, man. Some crazy ones, some cool ones. I remember there was one girl that I would call when no one else was available. Like, she was just always down to come. And the thing about me is that in that time period, it's crazy because it started from a place of emotional brokenness, but I was very emotionally numb. Like, I didn't really care for these girls. I was very indifferent to them. So yeah, there was one girl that would come around, like, we'd do whatever, and then she'd be on her way. Like, and I don't even know why she was like, why she was okay with that. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, just call her around whenever she'd come. There's another girl that I found out that one of my boys was involved with, and the guy had a girlfriend at the time. And when I found out, it was just very messy. There was one that was like on drugs. She was like really crazy and wild, and there was just all these different girls. Like, it got to a point, yeah, where I felt uncomfortable if there wasn't somebody in my bedroom. Like, that's how deep my brokenness was. I didn't feel comfortable being at home in my flat without somebody there. So yeah, I mean, there was different girls. And the thing is, yeah, my boys would rate me. They'd be like, Demi, you're going in, like, you're going ham. But inside, like, I was broken. And what I realized is that these girls were not fixing the deep-rooted brokenness that was inside of me. Like, while they were there, I would feel like happy and, whatever. But as soon as they left, I'd be left by myself, and I'd feel like the loneliness and the world closing in on me again. And that's all that pain that I was struggling to deal with. And the funny thing is, although I wasn't a genuine believer, I was still dealing with the conviction about sin. So I'd be doing like things like fornication and all the other things. And even when I was doing it, I would feel convicted about what I was doing. And that was very perplexing to me, because I would see a lot of my friends, they would do things and we'd all be laughing and joking about it together in our group chats. But me personally, I'm really conflicted inside about what I'm doing. So it's funny because although I don't believe I was saved yet, there was something that God was doing in my life to convict me about my sins. Like, I wasn't at peace with what I was doing. Even though it may have appeared that I was, deep down, I was really battling with myself over what I was doing. And it got to a point where I clocked, I really deeped that, nah, all this savage life stuff is not for me, boy. Like, it wasn't fixing the problem. Do you know what I mean? And I actually decided that I would go to church. I tried one church in Birmingham, wasn't really working for me. I wasn't really feeling it. But then I realized that I actually don't have any Christian friends. Like, I didn't know one single person that was a genuine believer. Like, everyone was raving and doing all kind of stuff. I mean, I had a lot of cool people, a lot of cool friends. But I wouldn't say there was any friend that I had that I knew that this person was on fire for God. So I felt kind of trapped. So I just continued living a life that I was living, knowing that I was rebelling against God. But the funny thing is, yeah, one of the girls I was dating, well, I wouldn't say I was dating her, one of the girls that I was involved with was on drugs, like heavy. And a lot of the people around me were doing drugs. But because I had this kind of sense of godliness, I didn't do drugs. And that's so weird. But I thought to myself, yeah, that there's going to become a time, yeah, where I may try to give my life to Christ properly, and I don't want to give myself unnecessary battles to fight. So I decided to myself that I wasn't going to take any drugs. Like, I didn't take weed, I didn't take anything, because although I wasn't in Christ yet, I did see that there was a time that I would become a full Christian. It's crazy because I was doing all these savage things, but in my mind, I could see a time where I would be in Christ properly. Like, I really do believe that God is doing a work in me and preventing me from doing certain things. So yeah, this year goes by, there's all kinds of crazy things. Like, I'm really lost. I'm super lost. I remember meeting one girl, really lovely girl, cool, down to earth girl. Like, all my friends thought I was punching above my weight with this girl. And I think we may have went into a relationship if times were different. But because of where I was at, I was emotionally numb to every female. And I remember pursuing this girl, showing her that I was interested, and she was not really giving initially. And I remember there was one day where she basically showed that she was interested in me back as well. And I remember I was proper happy, you know, we connected, we vibed and stuff like that. But because I was so lost in this savage life, the day after, I'd done something with another girl. And I just remember thinking, like, what on earth am I doing? So what I realized now is that the brokenness was my depravity, right? And I was trying to fix it through depravity, through being a savage. And I was so lost that I couldn't even control myself. Like, literally, I met a girl that was really cool, really down to earth. I was really feeling her. And the day after, I'd done a madness. And I just remember thinking that I am not in control of myself. Like, this savage life thing was spiraling out of control. And it's funny because when the year ended, I mean, this girl found out about what I was doing and she dropped me out. She was not interested after she found out what I did. But after the year ended, I kind of looked back and I remember thinking, okay, so I came into this year to fix the problem of me being heartbroken over my ex. And if I'm going to be very honest, like, being a savage did help me get her out of my system. But I replaced one problem with another set of problems. It was like I exchanged one kind of depravity for another kind of depravity, and it didn't really fix the problem of my innate brokenness, you know. In that, yeah, it kind of did help me go over my relationship, but it just created a different set of problems. Like, there was pregnancy scares. I mean, thank God I didn't get any STDs, but there was this fear of catching STDs. There was pregnancy scares. There was just the emotional things that came with being involved with so many different females. There was a feeling of just being cut off and disconnected from God. Like, I just felt lost when that year ended. And I realized that it didn't accomplish anything that I wanted. It just kind of resolves one problem by creating another problem. And I ended the year feeling just as lost and broken as I began the year. And I think this is a powerful encouragement for anybody that, you know, is going into university and thinks that, you know, living that kind of life will address that brokenness. It 1,000,000,000% will not fix it. And I took a few lessons from that situation. One of the things is that hurt people hurt people. Like, the reason why I went down that path was because I was genuinely hurt. Like, it wasn't like there was any malicious intent or anything, but inevitably, when we do things that rebel against God, there will be an inevitable effect of harm on other people. I remember there was one Christian girl that I was doing a thing with. Well, I don't know if she was Christian, but she professed Christianity. And I remember it was really weird because both of us were like having conversations when we were doing madnesses with each other, like, you know, should we be doing this? Does God want us to do this and stuff like that? And I would come up with like all kinds of weird rationales and explanations to justify why it wasn't okay, but it was okay. And the reason why hurt people was because inevitably I antagonized her walk with Christ. Like, I delayed her and I slowed myself down in doing so, you know. And I remember there was another girl that I saw, you know, a couple of years ago at a wedding. And I remember when I saw her, like, I was just so ashamed of, like, how I treated girls, you know, just, you know, casually having sex with them, not being interested in a relationship, like, just doing loads of casual things, not respecting women as people that were made in the image of God. You know, not respecting women and, you know, honoring their bodies in the context of a faithful covenant relationship and marriage. Like, I mean, it wasn't like I finessed women or cheated or lied, but I understand now as a believer that we have obligations to the opposite sex to respect their bodies, you know, and I didn't do that, you know. So even if they chose to do what they did, there was still a lack of respect that I hurt them in that sense, you know, and that's something I'm definitely very that I definitely do regret, you know. And what else is there? Another thing I learned was that nothing satisfies. Nothing satisfies. I mean, I think about the book of Ecclesiastes, how Solomon wrote the book of Ecclesiastes, and he'd had like 700 concubines, he had had wealth, he had had riches, and he writes this book of Ecclesiastes, and he concludes in this book after his lifetime that all of this thing is vanity, all of this thing is chasing after the wind. And you think by having loads of pretty girls that, you know, it will make you happy, but these things really don't fix you. Human beings cannot fix you. Human beings cannot satisfy in the way that God does. And yeah, I think the final thing I want to say is that the only thing that really does fulfill a person, and I'm not saying this to be cliche or just to be like sound holy, is God. Like, Christ is really the thing that fills the void, you know. And what I've realized is the brokenness that I was dealing with was my own depravity, you know, my own sinful fallen nature. And the things I used to remedy the depravity only changed the context in which the depravity was experienced. It fixed the problem with depravity and didn't heal the depravity. It does change the context for it, you know. And the Bible makes the claim that all have fallen short of the glory of God, that we none seek after God, none desire God, that we've been ensnared in darkness. And that darkness I was experiencing was my disconnect from God. And it will take a couple of years after university to start to, you know, begin that walk with God. But I realized in Christ that, you know, all the wholeness or the healing or the satisfaction I ever needed was found in faith in Jesus Christ. And I can tell you now that, you know, having become a believer, I mean, there's definitely challenges and struggles, but I can't say that I've ever been this happy in my lifetime, this peaceful, this fulfilled, this whole, you know. And it's not because I couldn't find it in women, you know. I couldn't find it in riches, like, you know, in all the money that I had. I couldn't find it in people affirming me or respecting me. I found, you know, all the happiness or the joy or the contentment I needed and peace in Christ. And I just wanted to make this video as an encouragement for anyone that is either going through this kind of period in their life or is considering, you know, remedying their pain by just going on a madness and doing all kinds of madnesses, that look, at the end of it, I am 100% sure that you will conclude that it wasn't worth it. And actually, there'll be all different kinds of things that will introduce into your life. Like, I can't imagine the amount of things spiritually that I introduced to my life through, you know, being involved with this number of women. Like, I'm 100% certain that there was a lot of healing and spiritual restoration that God had to do in me because of what I'd done. So I would say rather than getting yourself involved in savage life, like, people, just give your life to Christ. Like, just don't waste your time going through the world and getting worn out and used up and you know, spat out Okay, so now that you've finished watching the video, I did promise earlier on in the video that I would show you guys what my main strategy was in getting girls. This was like my move. This was my go-to move to like basically seduce any babe, and it was guaranteed to work. So yeah, here it is.
Who's next?
So there you have it, people. That's my major savage life move. Please do not use that move. Do not use that move. Whatever you do, don't use it. But if you do use it, you didn't get it from me. But on that note, thanks for watching this video. If you do have any comments, if any of my experiences resonate with you, feel free to drop a comment. And yeah, I'm just keen to hear what you guys have to say. But on that note, until the next time, peace.